This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
They miss Tyler Herro.
Told you they would.
They're not better off without Tyler Herro. Welcome to the party, Celtics. I've missed you. I've wanted. That's their team. That third quarter is what their team has been for 3 years. I've been waiting for that team in the playoffs. That team is better, I think, than Miami. Where you been?
We let them get one.
We?
I mean, the Heat, they warned us. I mean, they said.
Which we are you? You were.
I don't know. I mean.
You were.
I'm the we that, listen, I took the Heat in 4 or 5. And so, Dan, I've been in South Florida for 20 years now. Can I not call the local teams? Can I not feel like they're mine as well?
But you're a Knicks fan.
So what? I mean, Jess has 20 teams.
Then you should be a Magic fan.
Why are you put it on the poll, please, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Can you be a we on both Knicks and Heat?
He is a Magic fan. You hear him talk about Eric Spoelstra and his magic bag or whatever? Like, that's
Yeah,
who's
love
not a
that.
fan of
It's
that?
not a magic bag. It's a toolbox filled with magic,
My
and
fault.
it doesn't work when the Celtics make half their threes.
I think that Spoelstra and Missoula have 2 bags, and one's a magic bag and one's a bag full of curses, and they got mixed up before the game, and the Celtics had the magic last night, and Celtics in 7, baby.
It's as good an analysis as
Jesus.
I've heard of this
Thank you.
series. Is it because it's terrible, but everything I've seen in this series has ceased to make sense to me. I don't understand how Tatum was non-effective in the fourth quarter in the first 3 games of this series. I don't think they can win, Amin, and I want to get your expertise here. Jaylen Brown is an exceptional basketball player. He has been not in this series. I think he's hurt, and I don't think you will see him be excellent like that. And if he's not, then all of a sudden, Tatum's got to really carry you through everything that the Heat are doing. You tell me what you're seeing from Jaylen Brown. This is not the player that he is. Jaylen Brown competes to be the 3rd best player in this series. Like, he is right there, and he has not been that, and he wasn't that last night either, but they happen to make threes with a bunch of other guys. He can't shoot. His hand's busted up.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's hurt. That's part of it. The other part of it, though, I think, is you're seeing someone who you're seeing the magic, if you will, of game prep, of the idea that we're not playing Cleveland tomorrow, and 2 nights from now we're playing Milwaukee. We're playing Boston over and over again, and so the Heat have been able to put him in positions to not be successful. He's not a great ball handler. He's not terrible, but he's not.
Oh, I'd say he's close to terrible.
He's
He's
not
pretty close.
terrible.
He's pretty close. I mean, they lost
is.
the finals last year because they couldn't dribble.
It's been a hole in his game since he entered the league, and he's not getting better year over year.
I think he is getting better.
Against the Miami Heat, he is not getting better.
Because he's not good enough. It's not that he's bad.
Or maybe they're just challenging him more.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, that he's not good enough to overcome what they game plan for him. And that's why that's part of, as we talked to Scal last week, that's what makes it even bigger on Tatum. You've got to do this part of it because he can't, so you got to do it. But that's not why. I thought last night you saw the Celtics play defensively the way they're capable of doing, the way they've done pretty much all year long, and they hadn't done in the first 2 games. They looked lost, and last night they defended, and then from there the offense happened. This game changed in the third quarter completely, right? It went from Heat up 9 to Heat down 10 or so, with a massive run by the Celtics.
That's the Celtics team I've seen in the regular
Right.
season for 3 years. That third quarter that team is overwhelming offensively and defensively when all of their players are doing what they're supposed to do, because I have not recognized the Celtics in any way in the first 3 games of this series. I didn't recognize them in the first half yesterday either. It was one quarter that they had. I'm like, oh, there they are.
You know when it changed? There was a point where Strus got blocked, got the ball back, and hit the 3.
Yeah.
And the Celtics came down, and Jaylen Brown took a terrible 3. It was literally just like, I got to get him back with a home run of my own, and it was just awful. And the Heat got the ball, and right then I said, If they score here, the building was ready to explode, and Mazzulla would have been forced to call timeout, or maybe not because he's playing tennis and he has to win quarters. And that would have been – I thought that was the game right there.
Mike said right before that it was the game.
Yeah, when Strus made that three after the initial attempt was blocked and then fell right into his hands, you kind of felt like, okay, that's it. That's the counterpunch that the Heat needed to put this thing away. And I'm with you on Jaylen Brown. Dude looks like he's practically wearing a layout there.
So he takes that three, that errant three Jaylen Brown does. And the Heat get the ball back, and I'm like, this is it.
Is this where the Duncan Robinson pass in the key happens?
No.
Because the bounce pass.
Oh, my God.
It's literally the first thing they teach you when you start playing balls. No bounce passes in the paint.
It's not even that, Mike. It's literally they hit ahead on the break, and he looked as terrified as if one of us was on the court.
Then why would he try an ambitious bounce pass?
Okay, but he had just had that pass to Kyle Lowry right under the basket in the first half.
Can we at least a tip of the hat to Gabe Vincent's pass? That was one of the nicest passes of the NBA season.
Was
behind the back.
Yes.
Oh,
my
God.
Amazing.
That was another moment where I stood up and said, we're winning.
I mean, all the momentum was going. But I want to detail this because this is what happened after Jaylen Brown took that terrible three, and I was like, this thing is about to be over.
But just to explain to the
hold on, let me just say because I'm stalling, and then we're gonna get on a tangent.
Yeah, he wrote it down.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
I know, but I want to get to it, and I want to give you the room.
I had the room. You just took the room away.
Okay, now go sit in the penalty
Take the room
box.
back. No.
Go sit in the penalty box.
Oh my
That's
God.
the room that you have to take.
Go ahead
2
and
minutes
take
for
that
preparation.
room.
I want to know because I didn't remember
I
it.
want to get to it as
I
well.
was getting to
No,
it.
He
but
was
go
getting
sit
to
outside.
I
it.
literally
How
was
do you
about to
get
read
to
it. You're
it?
like, wait a second.
Go.
I gotta say
But
something.
I had to
else give
tip
you
the hat
room.
to Gabe Vincent's pass.
And
the bounce pass to Duncan Robinson.
Tip the hat.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell his
Who
name
are we
is.
tipping the cap to?
Gabe Vincent.
What happened after the Jaylen
No,
Brown?
no. I'm gonna get to
Do
it.
you not know off the top of your head? It's you have to read your notes.
I'm gonna get
wrote-
to it in 2 minutes. Go study your notes in the penalty
I
box.
can't because it's right where the
I
cameras
will
are, so
not.
now-
I will
now
not.
I can't even pick
I
it up.
will not allow you to read from your notes as we become the show where Mike Ryan's analysis is after Strus makes the three getting blocked. Game over. Heat win. This is where we're going to win. And then your analysis is the next play. If they do it right here, then game over. What I'm telling you is those Celtics in the third quarter,
my
they were going to
You're
bury.
still here.
My analysis.
Why are you still here?
My analysis is, can I give my analysis? That's my
No,
analysis.
no is the answer. Go sit in the penalty
A
box.
possession in a bucket early in the third quarter.
Dan wants vibes, not notes. I mean, come on, really?
Preparation.
And in fairness to Mike, he did say the first thing you learn when playing basketball is don't bounce it into the paint. I mean,
Charlotte saw in the third
right.
quarter.
No, he's not.
Yeah, it is. That's the first thing. Did
I don't
you
know if
watch
it's
Pistol
the
Pete
first
instructional?
thing. It might be like a top 10
No,
thing.
I learned basketball from Pistol Pete,
Yeah.
and he said right at the beginning, no bounce passes in the paint.
agreed.
That was the first thing, though.
That was the first thing
The
there.
first thing he said.
Well, the first thing was this is how you
Not
dribble.
like don't travel.
So it's not the
pivot
first thing he
foot.
said. Gotcha.
It's among the first things, guys.
I'm saying it's top 10. It's not the first thing.
It's a thing that everybody remembered, like the Tommy Mansky video. Everyone remembers the hose from center field throwing it into the garbage can. It wasn't the first thing in there.
Breach.
Everyone remembers Fred
But
McGriff
you
turning
said
to
it
the
was the
camera and
first
say,
thing.
this is
Dog.
the instructional video that gets results. It's not the first thing. It's the most memorable
But
thing.
You said it was the first thing.
Mike, you're in a room full of people that, as you say, everyone knows this. I think that none of the people in the room
It's an old reference.
know what you're
Won
talking about.
back-to-back AAU national titles. They don't just give that way to Tom Mansky.
But
Who's
the,
Tom Amansky?
the four
Oh,
people?
you go in the penalty
No,
box.
none of them know.
You go in the penalty
None
box.
Of them
No, this is
know.
a very 30s male
Mike,
thing. My boyfriend has talked
Amansky.
about this all the time. He has shown me the videos. This is not our generation.
This is
a
the instructional
generation
video
of
that gets
late
results.
20-year-olds.
This is the instructional video
Mike-
that gets results.
Mike,
I don't know what you're pointing the finger gun at me.
This
I
is
don't know.
This is the instructional video that gets results.
Mike, you go to the penalty box.
But this is the instructional video that gets results.
That is bad optics in 2023. Get out
But
of
this
here.
is
What are you instructing us
That's
with?
what Fred McGriff said.
Get out of
Yes.
here with your finger
crime
guns.
See, I wasn't watching Fred
2
McGriff
minutes.
ones. I was
They
watching
came from
Leon
center field in
Hernandez.
the garbage
2
can.
minutes.
We
I'm
had
not-
YouTube in our childhood.
Jess
Mike.
hears me. It's on YouTube.
Get out of here. I'm not certain I want to do this, but I think I want to support him because I agree with everything Mike is saying.
All right, you
See
get
you.
out of here too. Charlotte, you get out of here. There's a generational gulf. None of you knew what he was talking about, right? Charlotte, Jessica, Jeremy, Tony, none of you
Jess
knew what he
might
was
have.
talking
No,
about.
I know what he's talking about.
I have
but it's
no
not,
idea.
It's not a
Not a clue.
reference of my generation.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
You last night in that third quarter, all of a sudden, you feel hope again after thinking it was funny that they got blown out and not realizing that you were doing a coping mechanism to cover up your anger.
Yes.
And then you got to anger. You got to one of the stages of grief, anger. And in the third quarter, the coffin kicked open, and Marcus Smart with green hair had emerged to make some threes.
Yeah, I am in an unhealthy relationship with this team, Dan, because they're so hot and cold, and then I think I'm over them. And yesterday I was like, just maybe put me out of my misery, but also maybe don't put me out of my misery. And then I didn't realize until they had a chance how much I wanted them to win. And I'm sitting there grinning, being like, they're going to win 4 in a row. And I know that that's insane, but I also know that that is what sports fandom is.
A great stat last night, the second best stat last night was the Heat have not won 5 in a row. This was the second best, have not won 5 in a row, and the Celtics have not lost 4 in a row this season. But the best stat of the night was when I saw the graphic, Al Horford. This is his third free throw since March 21st. Want to introduce somebody here in a second. I saw him in the kitchen. I saw Stugotz sniffing around. Around here, it could be like dogs sniffing each other's butts when somebody new comes. Stugotz saw that there was a journalism outbreak in the corner of the kitchen and went over there to see if he could urinate on a spot or two.
I did.
And we'll get to that in a second. But before we do so, because I can't believe that Meadowlark has unlocked this treasure, Amin has taken notes. And when Amin is taking notes, I want to know there is basketball wisdom on there. You got to play the imaging there, Mike, because every time Amin comes around, he teaches us something about basketball. And he watched that game last night, and he watches with different eyes than the rest of us. It's not just front office eyes, it's surgical eyes. It's really knowing the sport. I'm saying, this is true, right? You're watching that game, and you are fascinated by when Spo goes to zone, what he's trying to do with that as a chess move, what Mazzulla is or is not doing. I believe you're watching that basketball game differently than the rest of us, so I want to get to those notes.
Time to talk basketball. Amin knows basketball. He'll teach you basketball. Expert in basketball.
Dan has an amazing capacity. See, I want to get to those notes. Now let's filibuster as long as possible with imaging and flowery language.
Let's wait till he reintroduces the guest we haven't gotten to in 2 minutes.
How about you get to the notes, though?
I know, man.
But see how I haven't stopped you this time from getting to the notes, and you're stopping yourself from getting. And you risk doing the thing that gets you in the penalty box before you get to the note.
Which is what? Social commentary on Dan Le Batard?
That's 2 minutes around here.
All right, so we talked about that moment when Jaylen Brown took that terrible three-pointer right after Strus hit this three after getting blocked. And this was the Heat's offense after that. Jimmy Butler missing paint. Bam missing paint. Gabe missing paint. Love missing paint. Strus stripped, driving to the basket. Butler turnover. Bam charge. Bam turnover. In a row. Those are the possessions. Meanwhile, this is what the Celtics did during that time. You had a Tatum three that came off a high pick and roll with Horford, where Horford flipped the screen. That basically means when the big is coming up and said, I'm setting up the screen on this side, like, psych, I'm coming on the other side. But because Kevin Love is too slow to react to that, Tatum gets a wide open three.
Does that cut it from 7-4 for the Celtics? Is that where we are after the Strus? Strus has made this ridiculous basket to put them up 5, Mike, or to put them
9. Up 9.
Put them up 9.
Yep. And then
we saw a lot less of Kevin Love out there. Spo knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they did that. Then we had, after one of those misses, a little fast break action and a secondary break. Tatum got a 3, so again, it's kind of a transition bucket. Then you got a breakdown defensively by Butler trying to guard Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart drives to the paint. They collapse. Max Strus falls asleep. You get a swing, and Derek White gets a wide open 3.
Good offense.
Yep.
Like, nice
it was bad defense.
Bad defense.
Max Strus fell asleep.
Well, and bad defense.
As someone that was there, I was yelling at Max Strus for a good 5 seconds.
But also bad defense by Jimmy, because all he's got to do is stay solid, and instead he tried to get aggressive on Marcus Smart, which brings me to another point. Paint touches. We talked about this last week. I told you guys about how like Bill Cartwright was a freak for paint touches. Now the crazy thing was, I believe it was game 2. TNT had the locker room kind of Spo talking to the team on the board behind him. It said paint touches. When we touch the paint, 1.68 points per possession. When we don't, 1 point per possession. This is a universal kind of thing in the league that coaches love when the ball gets into the paint. You heard Van Gundy talk about it the other night as well. And that play right there, Marcus Smart, that happened because they got a paint touch because Jimmy Butler just stay still. Let him do
but
whatever.
Your point before that on where the run gets away from Miami, where they start turning the ball over in a way that is conspicuous because they're very careful with the basketball. Your point is they were being aggressive. Jimmy Butler and others are getting shots at the rim that we've seen them make, and they were missing them or giving up the ball in transition.
So the misses are bad. The turnovers are horrendous. But for Miami, a team that is not, look, let's be honest, this isn't like will overwhelm you with talent. They have a very small margin for error. So basically, the way Miami succeeds is we don't make mistakes. We play mistake-free basketball. We let you guys make mistakes and we feast on them. The flip side of that is when you start making mistakes as Miami, you don't have a Tatum to kind of just talent your way out of it. So what happens after that play, you get a Brown transition dunk because of a turnover off of that Strus strip. You get a Brown transition play off of a Jimmy lazy pass. And then you get a Tatum ISO pull-up jumper, which is like, all right, you give it to him because he's great. You allow for that. But then right after that, what do? Tatum gets the ball now because he's hit 2 threes and he hit that shot. Spo panics. And so
Spo panics. Put it on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show.
Hispanic.
Amin Al-Hassan's
Filipino.
is Amin's criticism correct that Spo panicked?
Just like that.
Just like that. Put it on the poll. He appreciates the way people treat
The whole
him.
series is flipped.
Spo
Spo's not a great
panicked.
coach.
Spo
Mazzulla did a
panicked.
great job.
So
let's watch the town.
This is yeah, exactly. This is why, right? Because Tatum has a 3 that I said again that happened off of a pick and roll where a guy couldn't react. A 3 that was kind of in transition, and a tough ISO mid-range jumper. The next possession down, he's got the ball. They send Caleb Martin a double, and Marcus Smart hits that 3. And so there's nothing in that sequence from Boston offensively that's like, oh, we can't stop them. All we got to do is just keep doing our job. You don't need to adjust and react in that moment. That's one of those moments where an adjustment actually was the wrong thing to do because that allowed Tatum the passing lanes.
They made 42% of their threes. When Marcus Smart makes those shots with that kind of consistency, you generally lose to the Boston Celtics, and they're entirely capable. They're a talented team to win a game on the road and shoot 42% from 3.
Not only Marcus Smart, when you have Grant Williams hitting 4 threes, when you have Al Horford hitting 4 threes, like that's where that comes from.
Yeah, a couple adjustments that I noticed from watching the game. Al Horford picking up Bam Adebayo the entire way, and it seemed as though Spo figured something out, or at least the players individually figured something out with a high pick and roll between Jimmy and Bam. It was cooking them, and they, for whatever reason, just went away from it. Why was that?
I mean, I can't tell you why they went away.
It didn't seem like Boston figured it out, and Mazzulla's not the type of coach to make an adjustment on the fly.
I would say that what happened in the second half was the Heat missed a lot of gimmies in the paint, and that hurt. And then also, because of that, they started forcing, and they had a bunch of turnovers in that second half that was just like the type, what the irony is? It's the kind of turnovers that Mike Shore texts me about, like, why haven't teams learned you can't make that pass against the Heat? But this time it was the Heat making those passes.
Bounce passes in the
those
paint.
crazy
Exactly.
Yeah, and Bam's solid at it.
Again with bounce passes.
You
in the
can't
paint.
do it.
Right.
It's a first thing
Dan,
Pistol Pizza.
you
not
don't
the
bounce
first
it
thing.
into
It's not the
first
first
thing.
thing.
There's too many hands in the paint, Dan. That's it.
I understand
Just tight space.
why Mike is saying that.
Pistol Pete actually said Duncan Robinson cannot make that pass in the paint.
Duncan Robinson probably
Please,
said that.
please, just for a second, because Ryan Lomberg, we've got a lot to say around here, and we've got a lot of people,
Lomberg.
saying
Right.
it.
Is he the guest?
He's coming up. It's not the guest that we have now. We have a hockey player from the Panthers.
Ryan Lomberg is here?
He is here. He was going to be here in moments, but we also have we have another guest here that Stugotz was sniffing around.
Yeah.
But I can't get to
Kinda
him.
creepy.
I can't get to him just yet because I need to know what was happening with Mike Ryan and Boston Sports Radio. Last night he checked in on the hub, but it was sort of sad pornography for him. I don't know.
They let us get one.
Some people like that.
Saul, they let us get one. I'd still like to see a little bit more of Time Lord. Time Lord got a big bucket there. Energy. High energy Time Lord.
That has to be the greatest nickname in the NBA, right? The
Time
Lord.
Lord. Yeah, Time Lord.
I was sitting next to my wife watching the game last night, and I was like, hey, you know that guy Robert Williams? Yeah, I forgot his name. I only know him as Time Lord.
Time Lord.
So I'm like, they call him the Time Lord. She's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. It's a cool name, though.
Although he did look foolish. Time Lord looked foolish on that Gabe Vincent pass. It was a nice pass.
I mean, your analysis on just that the Robert Williams, that team, the Celtics, are an elite offense and defense when they're right and healthy and connected. Robert Williams is at the center of that. The most overwhelming basketball team I've seen in the last 2 years is when that team with Robert Williams healthy is totally connected. They're better than the Warriors last few years, better than everyone. But he's not healthy. He's not right. And in this series, somehow, Miami has turned him into what looks like to me to be largely a liability. Mm-hmm. How is that?
I think, again, because Miami plays a brand of basketball, it's about execution and you making mistakes and them feasting on your mistakes. And so the ability to get it right over and over again, that's why a guy like Al Horford is on the floor so much, because he gets it right. He makes the right play, even if it ends up with the wrong result, like he gets scored on or whatever. At least he's in the right place at the right time. And Robert Williams is susceptible to getting taken advantage of in that way, even though he's an incredible defensive player and an incredible energy player. Like, there's still some stuff in the margins where he's not quite, as good as a Horford.
I'm very excited to talk to Ryan Lomberg. Is he the guest?
Is he going to ask for the TPS reports?
Is he here?
Is
that the guest?
It's not the guest I was trying to introduce that we now no longer have time for. Sorry, Rohan.
Hello, Loms.
Hey.
Lamborghini. What's up, dude? You're the man.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks to you and your team.
Hell yeah.
And your goalie, your demigod of a goalie.
Mm-hmm. Say that again.
Your demigod of a goalie. Hey, before we get going, do you remember last year in Washington, D.C.? Dan, I'm going to do it. We shared a moment, like right before we advanced. Actually, it was right before Washington hit an equalizer. You and I locked eyes, and you were like, let's effing go. And I was like, that's unique to me.
You're embarrassing.
No?
You're embarrassing.
I was there in D.C. and we locked eyes, and then we gave up the goal right away, but then after we won in overtime, you look back again, and he's like, I told you.
Uh-huh.
It was a moment for you, too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We shared a moment, guys. Told you.
Love that.
Are you being polite, Lomberg? Or are you
Lomberg, tell us more about the moment.
Come on.
Please.
Give us.
No,
I lingered.
He's got great eyes. Great vibes.
It was in D.C.
Helped us get the win.
Yeah, that's what.
Team effort all the way around.
That's what I felt like, man. You're the best. Thank you for everything.
You're embarrassing me, and it's a delightful run, and we've all fallen in love with all of these people and their beards and their insanity.
And unfortunately, the market hasn't had too much of Lomberg this postseason because he's been battling through an injury. But even though Radko the Butcher looks the craziest, you ask all the teammates, they'll tell you Loms is the craziest.
Yeah, I'm pretty crazy, no doubt. But between the Butcher and I, there's a lot of crazy to go around. So,
what does that mean, though? Can you explain it to us? You're crazy. Explain it to us.
I don't know. I guess the boys would just say I'm willing to do whatever it takes. In a lot of ways. I really go off the other team how my crazy meter is, and the energy on our bench and all that stuff. But it's been going great so far.
What's the nicest thing you've said to an opponent during this playoff run?
Probably no nice things. Trying to think. Ranta, I politely told him to stay in his crease and not to come get the puck because I think it was last year I ran him over pretty good. So the game he was playing, I made sure to remind him not to come and touch the puck.
Are you guys proudly?
Especially myself. Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
Okay. Well, but it's irritating, and I can't imagine that anyone enjoys playing against you. But I want to throw Mike Ryan's theory at you because this has been an amazing and historic run, and he doesn't think you guys are playing particularly well.
So you guys still have a higher ceiling. I don't think that you guys have actually turned it on to the level that you should. You're up 3-0 against Carolina right now.
You can't do better than that.
And
Mike.
I leave every game saying, like, that's not even our best game. We still have another gear to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, I think, especially this time of year, you know, as long as you get the win and put that kind of win in your column, you know, it doesn't really matter how you get it done. You know, but I think, you know, you're kind of onto something as well as we're going. You know, there's definitely always room for improvement and mistakes happen as always. So, you know, there's definitely things that we can do to be better.
You're kind of an undersized guy for being this checking forward. You've added aspects to your offensive game. One of the things that I was really blown away by in watching yesterday's game super close up is a guy like Gustav Forsling, who's undersized, has to go for his entire 90-second shift out there on the ice. He has to move someone that is twice the size of him in Jordan Staal, and he's just out there battling, taking blows in the face. You can hear the blows from like 10 rows behind that Forsling just has to take the entire time that he's getting out there. How do your bodies feel carrying you measure up all right against some of these wingers, but Forsling in particular is so undersized compared to Jordan Staal. How does that body feel after an entire game?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think with Forsy specifically, he's a specimen. He God, there's barely an ounce of fat on him. He's, you know, very well put together. He trains extremely hard. You know, he's always dialed in. You know, a guy like him, he's, you know, still to this point, I think super underrated. He's defensively, you know, amongst the tops in the league, you know, no doubt. And then as far as the battle with Staal goes, I think he's got some pretty good close comparisons to him, you know, on our side, who he's been battling against all year in practice and stuff. So, you know, obviously it's a little bit different from practice to game and the intensity and all that stuff, especially this time of year. But, you know, luckily for us and Gustav, I think he's pretty well prepared.
Lomberg, did you spend any time with Koepka last night? Did you drink out of the Wanamaker trophy? What happened there?
No, I didn't. I saw him having a great time. Obviously he deserves it, you know, fifth major. That's very impressive. But I told him I'll see him at the end of the road here and we'll celebrate together accordingly.
He was wearing your jersey, right?
Yeah. No, I appreciate the big dog for all the support. He, you know, pretty cool to consider a guy like that a friend. You know, it's a dream in itself. So, you know, I've gotten pretty close with him and his buddies and the guy he rolls with. They're all great guys. So, I'm looking forward to it.
When Bobrovsky's going on a run like this, is this like kind of like in baseball when a pitcher's throwing a no-hitter? Like, are you guys talking to him before and after games right now, or are you just like letting him stay in his zone?
Yeah, you know, the ball's in his court. If you're going to talk to him, you know, you let him initiate the contact and all that stuff. I'm usually a pretty vocal guy and pumping guys up and encouraging guys and stuff like that. But yeah, I've definitely, you know, tried to make the decision to stay out of his way as much as possible. So if I'm going to give him a shin pad tap, he's coming to me first.
I want to ask you a question that requires maximum honesty. 7 games before the regular season is over, I come to you and say, Bobrovsky, where's your faith in him? The honest answer is 7 games before the end of the regular season, when he's about to have his job taken from him and does have it taken from him for 7 games, your honest thoughts would have been blank.
We knew he was capable of this. You know, we always have been. From the second I've stepped on the ice with him, I knew he was capable of this. So, you know, it's amazing to see all his hard work paying off. But, there's real no surprise for the guys in that room.
You need to organize the team, okay? Because the next time Kachuk wants to do a walk-off and get out of town, he can't be alone in the tunnel. You guys need to follow him. It's a great move. It's a walk-off goal in hockey, and yet he's the only one playing along. I need you to organize this because I want the entire team just to walk off the ice.
Yeah, the second time we were a little bit faster. The first time, I don't think anybody knew what to do. We were looking to celebrate. He was gone. We went to Bob. We just wanted to get home. Second time it was a little bit quicker, but third time's the charm for sure. So, he's, like Paulie said, he's a gamer. So if we're in that position again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy to do it. So stay tuned.
Can you articulate for us by just telling us what kind of tatters your teammates were in? What 4 overtimes of playoff hockey does to the human body? Can you articulate it in a way the layman would understand?
Yeah, it's a grind. It's like one of those things where, the second you disengage and, take the foot off the gas, so to speak, that could be the moment where, you give them the break and it's all over. So it's more mental than anything. You just kind of got to stay locked in and make sure, you're running your routes and get pucks out and get pucks in and really just let them make the mistake, because ultimately, usually in those games, I was joking around with Chucky, they're usually not toe drag top shelf goals. It's more so get the puck to the net and it hits somebody and in. But, obviously he's a pretty special player. So, we're happy he did it the way he did.
You didn't answer my question, though, of what the body feels like what a locker room's body feels like.
And did you read the quotes? They were having pizza and Red Bull before that fourth overtime. They're just built different.
The body's obviously tired, depleted. You're trying to get fluids in you as much as possible. But at the same time, we try to stay light, try to have fun. Ultimately that's kind of what gives us that other step. And that extra little bit of gas in the tank is just staying light and having fun. But the body, if you're not having fun and you're thinking about how long this game's going, how late it is, and how early it was in the morning, for somebody who isn't in that position to exert themselves like that, it's pretty intense and pretty hard. So I think the mental aspect is the thing that enabled us, to push our bodies along.
This Brent Burns on Carolina, he seems like a not nice guy. Is he as much of a jerk face as he looks?
Yeah, he's got that butcher caveman tough guy look for sure. He's obviously a tremendous player who's been doing it for a long time.
But a meanie, he's a meanie.
A jerk.
Yeah,
he
is for sure. So it's one of those things that you don't really want to poke the bear unless you have to. But he's been playing well, so we got to do a good job to contain him.
Locally, Heat culture gets a lot, but the Florida Panthers have had to say goodbye to a lot of good players because of their cap situation, and they've had to call on a player like you who went undrafted, who really worked his way up to the professional ranks, and you've been here for 3 years, constantly improving, a fighter both on the ice and figuratively as well. Are you starting to feel this market come around to the sport? Because in your professional career, you are a Florida Panther. Like, that's what you're known for. You came up through this organization. They gave you the chance professionally. Is there an appeal to being a little bit more anonymous down here? Do some of the guys like that about Florida? Or are you all kind of hoping that this run will make for a crazier fan base?
Yeah, for sure. I think, winning, is obviously hugely important to growing the game. Like you said, you're under the microscope. The longer you go on, the less games, teams, and people there are to watch. So, you're under the microscope. So, as a group, we're tremendously proud to be able to grow the game down in South Florida. I think, the second I came down here a few years ago, I was caught by surprise how good the fans were, how knowledgeable they were. I was getting noticed in supermarkets, at the mall, and stuff like that. So, You know, although it's not, you know, markets like Toronto and Montreal and New York, stuff like that, I think I've been saying it from day one that, you know, we definitely have one of the most underrated fan bases, you know, maybe in all of sports, because, you know, the fans always show up, they're always loud, they're always supportive. So very, very, very proud to, you know, like you said, grow my game here, and truly thankful to be a Florida Panther.
Can you explain to us your level of surprise that the most electric offense in the history of regular season hockey was totally nuked after you guys lost to Tampa in the playoffs? And I don't think a lot of franchises would have done what this one did. I don't think a lot of leadership would have done what seems unthinkable to me, to take something that felt safe and fun and exciting and just say, bleep this, we're not going to do it anymore this way. Your thoughts were what when that news arrived at your doorstep?
Yeah, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy for sure. You know, obviously, like you said, getting rid of some, you know, really good players. But to bring a guy like Chucky into the mix, you know, I was kind of, when it happened, I guess you could say that, you know, we would win less regular season games, but more playoff games, you know, and that's kind of exactly how it played out. So, you know, in Billy, we trust. And, you know, as long as I've been here, he's made some great moves. He brings in the right people. You know, he's a very intelligent man. So, you know, he definitely doesn't make moves like that lightly. He I would imagine, you know, molded over time and time again. But, you know, to see it paying off like it is right now, you know, it's pretty cool to see. And, you know, I knew, you know, Chucky would be, you know, good all along, but, you know, he's a pretty special player.
Do you have anywhere special the photo of the Butcher screaming at Toronto's poor goalie Wall at the just screaming?
Or a photo of our eye contact in Washington, D.C. after you guys beat the Caps to make it to the second round for the first time.
That picture circulated in our group chat for a little bit there. It was funny. I think it was
the
the
one
day
with
or
me.
two after that I saw a picture of it was a Butcher screaming face cutout, and I think that Wall guy got sent down for the American League playoffs, and one of the opposing fans brought it to the arena. So there's no escaping the Butcher when you're on the list. So the nightmare lives on for that guy.
That's a good T-shirt. There's no escaping the Butcher. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate your time, sir.
I love you.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. I love you too, man. I'll
he loves you too. He loves you too. You had a moment.
Until next time, all right?
Yeah.
See you later, Ryan. Thank you, sir.
See you,
all right,
Ryan.
guys. Thank you again.
All right, man.
Loms.